Silverpine Hollow. A town where secrets hide behind every tree and beneath every shadowed porch. It's the kind of place where everyone smiles at you during the annual rhododendron festival, but whispers about your business the moment you turn your back. That's where I live, or rather where I'm stuck, with Serafina, my wife, and Leora, our 6-year-old daughter. On paper, we're a perfect family. But let me tell you something. Perfection is just a facade when the cracks start showing. Serafina and I used to be inseparable. Back when we first met in college, she was this vibrant force of nature. Confident, witty, and full of life. She had this laugh that could light up an entire room, and for years, it felt like she saved all her brightest smiles just for me. But somewhere along the way things shifted. Life got heavy. Work stress piled on top of financial strain, and before either of us realized it, we were drifting apart. Conversations became transactional, dinners silent, and intimacy, well, let's just say it wasn't what it used to be. Then came Aloan, Serafina's younger sister. Perfect little Aloan. Always there with a helping hand or a sympathetic ear. Too perfect if you ask me. She moved to Silverpine Hollow last year after some vague breakup drama in Seattle, and from day one she made herself indispensable. Cooking meals, babysitting Leora, offering advice on how to reignite the spark between Serafina and me. First, I thought she was just being supportive. Now, I'm not so sure. It started innocently enough. A casual chat here, a shared laugh there. One evening I stopped by Pinecone Cafe. This cozy little spot nestled deep in the woods near our house. The air smelled like pine needles and freshly brewed coffee, and the dim lights cast long shadows across the wooden tables. I didn't expect to see Aloan there. She sat alone at a corner table, nursing a cup of tea, looking different. More relaxed maybe. Less guarded. We exchanged pleasantries, but then the conversation turned deeper. She asked about work, about Serafina, about how I was doing, not just as a husband or father but as a person. No one had asked me that in years. By the time I left I felt lighter, like someone finally saw me again. But as I drove home, guilt gnawed at me. Why had I stayed so long? Why did I enjoy talking to her so much? And why did I feel like I couldn't wait to see her again? Little did I know, that night would set off a chain reaction neither of us could have predicted. Because Aloan wasn't just being friendly. Oh no. She had plans. Plans that involved me and Serafina and tearing everything apart. After that night at Pinecone Cafe, Aloan and I started texting more often. Just small stuff at first, checking in, sharing funny memes, but soon the messages grew longer, more personal. She'd send me quotes about finding yourself or articles about relationships falling apart. Each word felt like a lifeline, pulling me closer while simultaneously drowning me in guilt. One afternoon, Serafina mentioned needing help organizing old photo albums. Without hesitation, Aloan volunteered. "You two go out," she said with a smile too sweet to question. "I'll take care of Leora." So we did. Dinner at a quiet Italian restaurant downtown, followed by a walk along the riverbank. For the first time in months, Serafina seemed happy, relaxed, maybe even hopeful. But instead of feeling relief, I felt suffocated. All I could think about was Aloan waiting for me back home. That weekend, Aloan suggested we meet up to discuss family dynamics. Yeah, right. We ended up hiking through the forest trails outside town, surrounded by towering silver pines and the distant hum of crickets. The air was crisp, tinged with the faint scent of wildflowers. As we walked, she opened up about her past, her failed relationship, her struggles with loneliness. Her vulnerability disarmed me completely. By the time we reached a secluded clearing overlooking the valley, I was already halfway gone. And then it happened. Out of nowhere, she leaned in and kissed me. Softly, tentatively, like testing the waters. My brain screamed at me to pull away, but my body betrayed me. For those few seconds, everything else faded, the guilt, the fear, the knowledge that this was wrong. When we finally broke apart, reality crashed down like a ton of bricks. "What are we doing?" I whispered, running a hand through my hair. Aloan just smiled, calm as ever. "Something we've both needed for a long time." I should have walked away right then. Should have ended it before it spiraled further out of control. But I didn't. Instead, I let her words sink in, planting seeds of doubt about my marriage that would only grow stronger with time. The web of lies. That kiss haunted me for days. Every time I looked at Serafina, Guilt clawed at my chest like a wild animal trying to escape. But the worst part? It wasn't just guilt, it was confusion. Confusion because deep down I couldn't deny that I'd liked it. Like the way Aloan made me feel seen again. Like the way she listened without judgment. And like the way she seemed to understand me better than Serafina had in years. But liking it didn't make it right. Not by a long shot. So I tried to distance myself. I stopped responding to her texts immediately, avoided being alone with her, and even volunteered to take on extra shifts at work just to stay busy. Yet no matter how hard I pushed her away, Aloan always found a way back in. She started planting seeds of doubt in Serafina's mind. Subtle things at first, comments about how stressed I seemed lately, or how distant I'd become. Maybe you two need some space, she'd say casually over breakfast, her tone dripping with faux concern. Sometimes people grow apart without even realizing it. At first, Serafina brushed it off. But then the little cracks began to show. She started questioning why I stayed late at the office so often. Why my phone screen lit up with notifications whenever Aloan texted. One night, as we tucked Leora into bed, she turned to me and asked point-blank, "Is everything okay between us?" I froze. Her voice wasn't accusatory, just tired, like she already knew the answer but needed to hear it from me anyway. "Of course," I lied, forcing a smile. "Why wouldn't it be?" She didn't press further, but the look in her eyes said enough. She didn't believe me. Meanwhile, Aloan kept pushing. She'd drop hints about how unhappy Serafina seemed, how maybe our marriage wasn't working anymore. Each word twisted the knife deeper into my conscience. Was she right? Had I let things fall apart without noticing? Or was this all just part of her plan? By the end of the week, I felt like I was drowning in quicksand, sinking faster with every passing day. The lines between right and wrong blurred until I couldn't tell which way was up anymore. And Aloan? She watched it all unfold with that same calm, calculating smile, knowing exactly what she was doing. The first crack appears. It finally happened one rainy Tuesday evening. I came home from work to find Serafina sitting at the kitchen table, her face pale and her hands trembling around my phone. My stomach dropped before I even saw the screen. "What is this?" she demanded, holding it out for me to see. A string of messages from Aloan stared back at me. Some innocent enough, others not so much. "Careful tonight, don't want anyone getting suspicious, winky face," read one. Another simply said, "You're amazing. Don't forget that." I opened my mouth to explain, but nothing came out. How could I possibly justify any of this? Instead, I stammered something about it being harmless, just friendly banter, anything to keep the truth buried. But Serafina wasn't buying it. "Harmless?" she snapped, slamming the phone onto the table. "Do you think I'm stupid, Kieran? Do you think I haven't noticed the way you two have been acting around each other?" Her voice broke on the last word, and suddenly she wasn't angry anymore. She was hurt. Devastated. It hit me like a punch to the gut, seeing her like that. This was my fault. All of it. I didn't mean for this to happen. I finally managed to choke out. It was a mistake. A huge mistake. Serafina shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "You don't get to decide what happens next, Kieran. You lost that privilege the moment you betrayed me." Before I could respond, she stormed upstairs, leaving me alone with the wreckage of my own making. For hours I sat there, staring at the rain streaking down the windows, replaying everything in my head. What had I done? How could I fix this? The next morning, Finn showed up unannounced. He must have heard about the blow-up somehow, though I didn't ask how. Without hesitation, he dragged me outside for a walk, his expression grim. "You're an idiot," he said bluntly once we were far enough from the house. "And if you don't stop this now, you'll lose everything." His words cut deep, but they also woke me up. Maybe it wasn't too late to salvage what was left of my marriage. Maybe I still had a chance to make things right. But deep down, I knew one thing for sure. Aloan wasn't going to let me go without a fight. The storm begins. If I thought things couldn't get worse, I was dead wrong. Over the next few days, Aloan doubled down on her campaign of manipulation. She played the role of the concerned sister perfectly, offering to mediate conversations between Serafina and me, suggesting couples therapy, even organizing family outings to help us reconnect. On the surface, it all sounded helpful. Beneath it, though, was a calculated effort to drive a wedge between us. Serafina, bless her, tried to resist. She avoided Eloan as much as possible, retreating into herself whenever the topic of our marriage came up. But the doubts lingered, festering like an open wound. One night, after another tense dinner where barely a word was spoken, I caught her scrolling through my phone again. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. "I just need to know the truth," she whispered, her voice hollow. "Tell me you're not still talking to her." "I'm not," I lied, hating myself more with each syllable. Because the truth was, Eloan hadn't given up. She kept texting, calling, finding excuses to see me. And despite everything, I hadn't completely cut her off. Not yet. The breaking point came a few nights later. Serafina and I got into another heated argument, this time loud enough for Leora to overhear. I don't remember exactly what we said. It was all a blur of accusations and recriminations, but I'll never forget the look on Leora's face when she appeared in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Mommy? Daddy?" she asked softly, her big brown eyes filled with confusion. "Why are you yelling?" The room went silent. Guilt crashed over me like a tidal wave. We weren't just destroying our marriage, we were tearing apart our daughter's world too. Serafina knelt down and pulled Leora close, murmuring reassurances I knew neither of us truly believed. As I watched them together, a pang of determination surged within me. I couldn't let this continue. Whatever it took, I had to protect my family, even if it meant facing the consequences of my actions. Little did I know, the real storm was only beginning. The truth surfaces. It was supposed to be a normal morning. I woke up late, poured myself a cup of coffee, and absent-mindedly scrolled through Evan's phone while he showered. He'd left it on the counter again, careless as always. That's when I saw it. A photo. Of him and Lila. Smiling. Laughing. Together. My hand shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. The background looked familiar. It was the park near our house, the one we used to visit as a family. Except this time it wasn't us in the picture. It was them. And they looked close. Too close. By the time Evan emerged from the bathroom, towel slung over his shoulder, I was standing there, gripping the phone like it might explode at any moment. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice trembling. He froze, his face draining of color. For a split second I thought he might deny it, make up some excuse about how innocent it all was. But then something shifted in his expression. A mix of guilt and resignation, and he sighed. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't mean for it to happen." Those words hit me like a freight train. Sorry. Was that supposed to fix everything? To erase the betrayal, the lies, the months, or maybe even years I'd spent questioning my own sanity? "You slept with her," I whispered, the realization crashing over me like a wave. "My sister." Evan nodded, unable to meet my eyes. "Yes." The room spun. My legs gave out and I sank into a chair, clutching my head in my hands. How could this have happened? How could the two people I trusted most in the world do this to me? Betrayal felt like a knife twisting in my chest, sharp and unrelenting. For hours I sat there, numb. Evan tried to talk to me, to explain, but I couldn't listen. Every word felt hollow, meaningless. All I could think about was how much I'd given up for this marriage, for him, and now it was crumbling beneath my feet. The battle for control. Lila showed up later that evening, her usual confident smile plastered across her face. She acted like nothing was wrong, breezing past me with a cheerful, "Hey sis," as if she hadn't just shattered my entire life. But this time I wasn't letting her get away with it. "We need to talk," I said, blocking her path. My voice was cold, steady, unlike the storm raging inside me. She feigned surprise. "What's wrong?" "Don't play dumb," I snapped. "You and Evan. The photos. Everything." Her expression faltered for a fraction of a second before she recovered, shaking her head sadly. "Clara, you've got it all wrong. Evan pursued me. He wouldn't leave me alone. I tried to stop it, but..." I stared at her, incredulous. Did she really think I believed that? That Evan had somehow seduced her? It was laughable. And yet, part of me wanted to. Because if it was true, if the blame rested solely on him, then maybe I could salvage some semblance of my family. But deep down I knew better. Lila thrived on chaos, on control. This was her game and we were mere pawns. Meanwhile, Sophie became collateral damage. She started acting out, throwing tantrums, refusing to eat, clinging to me like a shadow. One night as I tucked her into bed, she asked softly, "Are you and Daddy going to break up?" My heart broke all over again. How could I explain this mess to a 6-year-old? Instead, I hugged her tightly and promised, "No matter what happens, Mommy loves you." But love alone wasn't enough to hold us together anymore. Breaking point. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in our house grew unbearable. Evan begged me to stay, promising to change, to cut ties with Lila completely. "Please," he pleaded one night, tears streaming down his face. "I'll do anything. Just give me another chance." Part of me wanted to believe him. After all, we'd built a life together. A home, a daughter. Could I really throw it all away? But every time I looked at him, I saw her. Their smiles. Their laughter. The betrayal etched into every shared glance. And then there was Lila, still lurking in the shadows, her presence poisoning everything. She called constantly, sending texts filled with veiled threats and manipulative apologies. "Think about Sophie," she wrote once. "Do you really want to tear apart her family over a mistake?" A mistake. As if sleeping with your sister counted as a simple error in judgment. I reached my breaking point one rainy afternoon. Sitting alone in the living room, surrounded by silence, I realized I couldn't live like this anymore. Something had to change. Either I forgave Evan and tried to rebuild, or I walked away entirely. But first I needed space. Time to think. To breathe. Redemption or ruin? I packed a bag and left without saying goodbye. Not to Evan, not to Sophie. I couldn't face them, not yet. Instead, I drove aimlessly until I found myself at a quiet cabin a few towns over, rented under a fake name. For the first time in months, I felt free. Free from the weight of their secrets, their lies. Back home, Evan struggled. Without me, he was forced to step up as both parents, caring for Sophie full-time. At first, he resented it, the sleepless nights, the endless questions, but slowly he began to see things differently. Watching Sophie laugh, hearing her call him Daddy with such pure affection, reminded him of what truly mattered. Noah visited often during those weeks, dragging Evan out for long walks and blunt conversations. "You screwed up big time," Noah told him one evening, his tone firm but not unkind. "But screwing up doesn't define you. What defines you is whether you learn from it." Evan nodded, staring out at the sunset. For the first time, he understood the gravity of his actions, not just the affair itself, but the ripple effects it had caused. He vowed to make amends, starting with cutting Lila out of his life for good. As for me, I spent my days reflecting. On Evan, on Lila, on the choices that had led us here. By the end of the third week, I knew what I had to do. A new beginning. When I returned, the house felt different. Cleaner. Brighter. Evan greeted me cautiously, unsure of what to expect. Sophie ran straight into my arms, crying, "Mommy, don't leave again." "I won't," I promised, holding her tight. That night, Evan and I sat down for a long overdue conversation. "I know I can't undo what I did," he said, his voice raw with emotion. "But I swear I'll spend the rest of my life making it right, if you'll let me." I hesitated, weighing the pros and cons. Trust would take time to rebuild, and forgiveness wouldn't come easily. But looking at Sophie, at the hope still flickering in Evan's eyes, I realized something important. Love wasn't perfect. It was messy, complicated, and sometimes painful, but it was also worth fighting for. "We'll try," I said finally. "But no more lies. No more games. If we're doing this, it's together for real this time." Evan nodded, relief washing over him. And though the scars remained, faint reminders of everything we'd endured, we took our first tentative steps toward healing as a family. Because despite everything, love still lingered. Fragile, yes, but alive. And sometimes that's enough.